It's been wonderful watching you play all these years. Brilliant game.
Should I apologise now?
Your prediction, who's going to take the cup this time?
I love wearing hats, probably for obvious reasons.
Are you a person who drives most of the time, or you are driven by a driver or a chauffeur sometime?
Depends if you're asking whether it's here in India or back home in Australia.
Welcome to TOI Auto, and today I've got the big man Matthew Hayden with me, and well, not just big literally, but he had a crucial role to play in many big scores that Australia put up when he was the former opening batsman. He is also the brand ambassador for Mahindra Australia. So thank you so much for joining, Matthew. And it's been wonderful watching you play all these years. Brilliant game.
Should I apologise now?
So, well, we are all about cars. We will come to cars. But before we go and talk about cars, it's the World Cup going on. So let me just put a few questions to Matthew Hayden. Of course, it's very natural. Your prediction, who's going to take the cup this time?
Well, India should on form and just the way that they've gone about. It's a popular answer, I know. But tonight's going to be a really big test for them as well. South Africa and India have definitely been the two form sides, top of the table, clash. Power unit versus a very good bowling unit. I sense maybe that's the upper hand when it comes to this World Cup, is the fact that someone like Mohammad Shami has really come into his own during this tournament. A force change with Hardik Pandya, but a good one. Surya Kumar Yadav also, got that sort of power hitting ability, that real sort of force down the late middle order. So got some strong contenders. Pakistan is still there. Could it be that final that everyone here in India would like to see?
Yeah.
Their win over New Zealand last night, chasing 400, was nothing short of phenomenal. Fakhar Zaman coming back into his own, in a really dominant way, and a perfect knock. So it's been a wide open tournament, very dominated by batsmen. I think there's been 27 hundreds. Virat Kohli, the most important, maybe, breaking or equaling Sachin Tendulkar's record of 49 hundreds. That's, some feast of runs for Virat and Team India.
Brilliant. And we'll now switch to cars. Also, very obvious question, but something our viewers would definitely want to know. Matthew, what is that one favorite dream car for you?
Well, we're probably standing in front of it. Like for me, I need a versatile car. Scorpio-N, we call it Scorpio in Australia, is something that provides my family great assurance to get any adventure that we want. I love surfing, I love the outdoors, I love the fishing, so it means that I've got to have a very capable, not only all-wheel drive, but a four-wheel drive. So I have this exact car, this exact colour actually at home in my garage. The fact that it's got low and high range, four-wheel drive gets me out of any trouble. It's a good torquey engine as well, so it drives well. It's a good safe car. One of the selling features to this vehicle actually is the fact that it's just got a really good high. Being a tall person, I always have the saying with this car that you can leave your hat on. I often, guys I love wearing hats, probably for obvious reasons, but I can get into a vehicle and not have to feel like it's small. I'm up high, I can see my surrounds. So this car here is something that suits my family and in particular my lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, for someone as big as Matthew, I think the Scorpio definitely makes great sense. It gives you a lot of room inside.
It does. I mean, I think it's also its drivability as well. It's something that's really been a marked improvement in the SUVs of Mahindra. Not only their design features, I mean, when you look at these cars, this big wide open grille, it's got really good headlights. This car, I think, has probably got one of the best visions for night driving that I've experienced as well with Mahindra's range. We need that because we have to dodge a lot of wildlife in Australia. Kangaroos, most importantly, but it's a good, as I said before, it gives you a very good clear view of the road. We have dual carriageways often in Australia, and they're very straight, long roads. So it's important to be able to sit comfortably in your vehicle, and this does it.
And are you a person who drives most of the time, or you are driven by a driver or a chauffeur sometime?
Depends if you're asking whether it's here in India or back home in Australia, because I'm struggling to drive here in India. You guys are just like, if you can drive here, you can drive anywhere in the world. I mean, literally when I drive on our roads, I don't have to share it with anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm the driver though. That's of course unless my wife's in the car, and then she becomes the driver, as a good husband should, just sort of step to the left of the field.
Right. Okay. And what was the first car, Matthew?
My first vehicle was a little Volkswagen Beetle. It was a farm car. I drove it around when I was 8 in the farm, of course, highly illegally, but we're on our property. It's a country estate.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that was my first car that I drove. My first drive car was an EH Holden. Back then when Holden was actually manufacturing in Australia as well, they were kind of Ford and Holden with a great rivalries. Now, of course, we've expanded. We've got about 65 original car manufacturers in our market now. So Mahindra, it fits neatly into the Australian psyche because we're very used to having offshore manufacturers in our country, from the Koreans, the Japanese, the Chinese, and of course, Indian manufacturing has been there, especially in the tractor range, for about 16 years now.
Right.
So yeah, very used to having offshore companies come to Australia. I think as a market, we're really looking for price point and build quality. Because of our safety standards, it's very important that manufacturers coming to the shores of Australia understand just how stringent the laws and regulations are around the safety of Australian citizens. And also just the way our roads are conducted, it's a very monitored drivability. The traffic regulations are quite hectic and the fines are significant. So compliance is sort of a bit of a non-negotiable in our country.
Right. And in past, if you look at the Australian car market, it's been largely dominated, like by American brands and some other brands. But an Indian car maker, and what's the perception that Australian car buyers have about Indian car brands now that they're relatively new for Australia?
Yeah, it's a good question actually, and it's one that has been typically a barrier to offshore companies coming to our market. Right now, what's happened is that we've really only had, up until this point, even though Mahindra's been there for almost 15 years, we've only had one vehicle, and that's been the pickup. And we've had a regional landscape of our resellers and our dealerships. And the pickup, as you know, is a tough, rugged little truck. And so born in the bush, it's created a legacy in the bush. Okay. Now that it's actually got its routes into its SUV products, 700 more specifically, and now the Scorpio-N that's coming to our shores, it's a much more of a metro offering. Right. So too is our sales ecosystem developed into a metro offering. So our dealership landscape is extended into, the metropolitan cities of Australia, where the population is. We're only a tiny population, with 25 million people, of which 90% are actually living in or around the cities. So it was important that Mahindra, take that plunge into the metro market. And they've done so under the rebranding as well, under the Twin Peaks. And that's a catchy brand that's well recognised now in Australia.
Brilliant. And of course, we have to ask Matthew this. Nowadays, the buzzword is electric cars. Everyone's talking about electric cars. What do you think about electric cars? And there's a lot of sound because Virat Kohli's just got a century. And so what do you think of electric cars personally? And Mahindra is coming up with a range of very exciting electric cars. So are you going to get one, being the brand ambassador?
Well, I hope so, because a lot of my driving is in and around the city. So one of the biggest things that we do have in Australia is such a vast landscape. Okay. So in along with electric vehicles has to be the infrastructure there to support, the challenges of electric vehicles and the recharge points. But that's growing in Australia. You certainly wouldn't have the first mover advantage. Tesla's been there for some time now, intending to dominate, the Australian e-business. So you'll have competitors. Mahindra will have competitors, but so too then those competitors have actually, with government subsidies, have now, at least tried to capitalise that move. Whether that takes off in regional Australia, where you drive on roads where you don't see anyone for a whole day, and I mean literally a whole day, it is quite a significant issue to overcome. But I'm sure that with the tech sassy worlds of a market like India, that's a problem that'll be overcome, you know, in the short to long, medium term as well. You know, things, for example, like solar panels on roofs. We've got plenty of sun in Australia. You know, potentially can be innovations of the future. But for now, all of the e-business that Mahindra are bringing to this ecosystem can certainly fit well into the ecosystems of Australia.
Brilliant. And you, for you personally, electric cars, do you like the idea of going to electric cars?
Yeah, I do. I mean, for me, it's their capabilities to supply my adventure needs. I'm not going to lie and say that I don't love the sound of a big V8. But the reality of that is that, you know, we and starts with you, me, we need to be responsible. And as part of that conversation, you can look at maybe, you know, in terms of multi-vehicle uses, having an opportunity to have vehicles in your fleet to be able to service your everyday needs. And if I want to go off an adventure up into the hills or on the beaches of Australia or the great landscapes or outdoors of Australia, then at the moment I'm limited not by my choice of vehicles, but by my choice of infrastructure to support those vehicles.
Right.
And the technology is only going to get better the more that you invest as well. So companies like Mahindra are investing enormous amounts of money in it.
Right.
And I'm sure as consumers, of which I'll be one of them, I'll support that.
Brilliant. I think it's been a brilliant conversation with you. Of course, cars. And Matthew also said that according to him, India continues to be the favorite to win the World Cup. Let's hope that happens.
It's a popular vote, but I'm pretty certain that, you know, India is going to be there in the finals. And then, as they say, it's, you know, two-horse race.
Yeah.
And, you know, the cricket will be the winner, as the old cliche says.
What about Australia?
Australia could be there as well. I mean, we're in the front of the wave now. We've got some great performances from Adam Zampa. That's making a big difference through the middle. And actually, Pat Cummins is starting to captain the side nicely as well. There's a couple of things that are kind of like falling into place. But I just feel at the moment South Africa and India are the favourites.
Great. So that was Matthew Hayden. And of course, for many more such interesting conversations, do stay tuned into TOI Auto and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, Matthew.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
My pleasure.